Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today we are setting up my bullet journal for the month of March. And so yeah, let's get into it. Today I'm giving you guys this cute little embroidery themed setup. If you don't know, I'm a very big hobby person. I have a lot of arts and crafts hobbies. And like in December, it was already in December, God. I was hyper focused on wanting to learn how to embroider, and I was putting so many like embroidery patterns and images on Pinterest, and I went and got supplies, but then I got sidetracked because I got hyper focused on crochet. So then I was basically crocheting for a long time, and I set aside the embroidery supplies. And I'm hoping that this month I'll finally pick up embroidery because I have like really cool supplies that I want to try, and I'm like curious to get my hands on it finally. So yeah, I'm basically reverse engineering myself to get excited into embroidery by making this spread. So yeah, that's what we're going for this month. Sometimes you just gotta like reverse engineer your own brain to get yourself to do the things that you want to do and you've been putting off for whatever reason. So this is my plan to reverse myself. But yeah, switching things up ever so slightly. I set up the cover on the left page. I usually do that on the right, but I was like, you know what? Switching things up ever so slightly sometimes can allow for more creativity to flow in, and also some of you guys might prefer to have the cover on the left, so I was like, you know what, let's give people options. So yeah, on the right side of the cover page there, I decided to put in my goals page. So I'm changing things up ever so slightly. I said ever so slightly already. Why am I saying that so much? But yeah, if you've been here for a little bit, welcome back. If you haven't, hello. I would recommend maybe taking a look at my monthly setup playlist. You guys can take a look at the kind of spreads that I usually make, get a clue of if my bullet journaling style fits your needs. But if you've been here for a while, you might have noticed that I usually make like a self-development spread. I'm switching that this month for the goals page. I just gave myself a lot of space to break things down, to break goals down into smaller tasks. That way I can slowly but surely make my way towards fulfilling those goals. And so, yeah, that is the main plan for these two spreads. This month, and given like the delicate looking vibe of this drawing, I decided to go with a bit more of a pastel color palette, but I still wanted to get like a little pop of color. So I'm going in with the kind of burnt yellow, the kind of bluish purpley, and like the darker green to give it some contrast with like the lighter shades of pink and like beige. I thought this would look really nice, and I'm really happy with this cover page. I haven't been this pleased with a cover page in a while. It just feels so delicate and so cute. I don't know. It makes me feel peaceful when I look at it. And I hope that maybe it gives you guys that same feeling. If you guys want to reproduce or at least like bring some aspects of this into your own bullet journaling ventures, if you guys don't really want to go full on out like I did, maybe just forget like the actual embroidery aspect of it, and maybe just go for the little, I don't know if it's bobbins that it's called, like little bobbins of yarn, I think that's it, or thread in this case. And the little buttons. If you could just do that, because those are actually pretty simple to draw, that would also give you guys a pretty cool and delicate looking drawing without having to go all out with more detailed stuff. And also because not all of us have the same amount of time to make really elaborate spreads, so that would also simplify your task and reduce the amount of time that this would take, which, you know, it's pretty nice. So yeah, maybe give that some thought. I decided to put my goals page right next to the cover to kind of bring it like front and center into the month. And I really want to focus on making more progress towards my goals for the year. I'm proud to say that, thank God, I'm actually making good progress this year. I'm happy with that. But still, I want to make sure that my focus is in the right place so that I get most of my progress done like as soon as possible in the year, so that I am not procrastinating things late into the year, because I have a bad habit of doing that, and I want to break that habit this year, because it's kind of the idea that the amount of time that you allocate to give yourself to do something is the amount of time that it will take you. So I'm kind of trying to, again, reverse engineer my own brain into getting work done quickly. So yeah, moving on to my monthly setup. Again, with the embroidery, but because I'm not going to have the same amount of space in every page, of course I can't just draw a massive embroidery hoop in every page. I decided to switch things up a little bit. The little bobbins, or whatever you call those things, and the little buttons are the predominant it's a component, yeah, let's call it component of the theme. And then with the embroidery, I'm switching things up ever so slightly, unlike what it is. So with the first page, you have like the big embroidery hoop. Here it's kind of like a handkerchief, and so yeah, the things that are embroidered, as well as like the embroidery itself, so like the flowers, will change throughout the theme. That was something that I also thought would maybe give you guys a little bit more like wiggle room with what you guys could try and replicate if you would want that, or just draw inspiration from. Maybe this would give you guys a bit more options. So yeah, monthly setup, again on the left. I have considered in the past putting it on the right. I don't like it for some reason. I just like it a lot on the left. And again, as in the past 2 months now, I think, I am putting my habit tracker right on the right of the monthly log. This is very helpful because since I always make my habit trackers in the shape of the month, this way I do not have the tedious task of writing down every single number for each day like 6 or 7 times. So this saves me a lot of space. It's not space, time, because I can just look to the left there and see which day each square corresponds to, and I do not need to write down so many freaking tiny numbers. For this month, I actually decided to add an extra habit to track, and you will notice that I leave that blank, because when I was making my list to track basically which habits I wanted to track, I felt like something was missing, but I didn't know what, so I just left a box there in case I come up with something that I want to track. I was like, you know what, it's no sin if this doesn't go filled, and if, say, halfway through the month I randomly decide that I want to track something else, I can't. No one's stopping me. So I have a little spare habit tracking box there at the end for me, and as always, a little notes box in case I want to write something down. And under my monthly log, I used to make a little goals box in there. I decided to make a reading journal box. I do track the amount of pages that I read and the books that I read throughout the year in my initial yearly setup. I will also link that for you guys. But I realized that in my bullet journal, like physically, I do not have any space for me to write down thoughts on what I read. So that's what that box is for. So as far as like, let's say, metrics or statistics of reading, I have that in my yearly setup. And then as for thoughts on books, I will have that on my monthly setup. So quite happy with that system as of now. Next up, we have my meal planner. I've done this before just like this in the past, and the reason why I keep on repeating basically the same layout is that I do not know how to make this in any other way while maintaining the same information. If in the future I choose to track something else, I will change it up, but for now I'm leaving it like this. And I'm always kind of sucky at filling this out and actually meal planning, because I have only been living by myself since, like, it's gonna be actually 5 months now. Okay, no, 4? 4. 4. I think it's 4. 4 full months. Anyways, that's irrelevant. It's the first time that I have full control of every single meal that I prepare. And so, I am finding things out about my eating habits and my, like, cravings and stuff that I hadn't contemplated before. I am realizing that I get really bored with my food. I feel like it's probably a sensory thing, because I don't get tired of the flavor. Let's say I meal prep something that I absolutely adore, and I have meal prepped it for like the next 4 days. I will get tired of the texture. I know that it tastes amazing, I know that I like the flavor, but thinking about the texture of that food in my mouth makes me not want to eat it. And I don't know, I feel like I just get tired of the texture. Does that happen to someone else? If that happens to you, please let me know. But yeah, I realized that I can definitely meal prep, but I cannot meal prep such an absurd amount of food that I'm eating the same thing 4 days in a row. Because when I'm eating the same thing 4 days in a row, it's not just like 4 lunches, it's 4 lunches and 4 dinners. And I kind of used to do that because, well, I figured I'm just going to do something that I love to eat, and that way I don't mind eating it for so many meals in a row. I still mind, and it's not a flavor thing, it's a texture thing, but regardless. And so I'm planning on using this to be a bit more efficient on that, and just plan to meal prep for smaller amounts of meals, but to do it more efficiently. Also, I stumbled upon a podcast about glucose. I had been struggling a lot with really strong sweet cravings. I'm not saying like wanting to randomly eat a donut or randomly eat something sweet. I'm talking about having the compulsive need to eat something sweet, that I cannot do something until I actually eat something sweet, because my mind will be screaming at me to eat something sweet. And I stumbled upon this podcast on glucose, where the woman was basically saying that eating a sweet breakfast is really bad for you because it causes a really big glucose spike, like the level of sugar in your blood, and that will basically roller coaster you into having really massive sweet cravings throughout the day. And I was like, wait, is that it? Because I always have sweet breakfasts. So I've been switching to savory breakfast, and oh my god, the amount of difference that just that has been making in my eating is insane. The sweet cravings have been mostly gone if I just eat a savory breakfast, which I didn't expect this to be just so simple to solve. But I find that since I'm not used to making savory breakfast, I need to plan that a little bit more. I need to actually put in some thought into what I'm going to eat. So yeah, I'm also going to be taking advantage of this meal planner for that. I might link the podcast in the description for you guys to check it out, in case that's something that will be interesting or helpful for you. She does also mention a good amount of other tips. But yeah, moving on to the physical well-being, which ties up pretty nicely on this whole glucose theme. But yeah, I've done this in the past, and I really like it, and I noticed that you guys liked it a lot too, and here I am again tweaking it a little bit. I hope you guys enjoy it still. But yeah, I decided to switch up the setup a little bit. So before, I would have kind of like a monthly log to write down my workouts and like the intake of water and fruit. Changing that up ever so slightly. Well, not ever so slightly. I need to stop saying ever so slightly. But yeah, I decided to track things differently a little bit. So that's what we're doing this month. And I made it a bit similar for the mental well-being spread. Again, you guys seem to have been loving that. I'm really happy. But yeah, I decided to add a little tab there. Well, not tab, I guess it's table. One for meditation. And I know that that would kind of technically fit a little bit more into a mental well-being spread, but honestly I feel like meditating calms down my body a lot, not just to a point where it's a mental health thing, but to a point where it's a physical health thing. I find that if I meditate, for example, I sleep a lot better, and if I sleep better, I have more energy. If I have more energy, I don't crave like sugar as much or bad things that I shouldn't be eating, and I'm overall just better on a physical plan, you know? So I decided to actually put that into the physical well-being. And I find that reframing meditation into a physical wealth thing rather than just a mental health one makes me be more keen to the idea of actually doing it. So again, sometimes you gotta reverse engineer your own brain and reframe things in a light that will make you want to do so more. And I am bringing back the sleeping hours tracker. I've been using an app to track my sleep for the past few months, but I find that I'm not actually sure if it's doing a good job. The reason is it registers a sound, like in theory, of your own sleep, but the thing is, for you to listen to the recordings, you have to pay for like the premium subscription, which I don't feel like doing. And I'm not entirely sure if the sound that it's picking up on is from me or if it's like from my cats having random zoomies during the late hours of the night, or if it's like from sound from my neighbors or something. So I decided to go back to manually writing down when I'm going to bed and how much I'm sleeping and whatnot. Gluten there. I am trying to figure out if I'm actually intolerant to gluten or not, and so I'm basically going to be experimenting throughout the month with eating gluten and not eating gluten to see how my body responds. Because I noticed that even though I'm eating like gluten-free oats, for example, I would notice that I wouldn't respond that well to oats. And again, with the glucose podcast, the girl was talking about how oats are basically a starch, and so a starch will spike your glucose. And I was eating a lot of oats for my breakfast, so I'm wondering if it's not just an overwhelming amount of glucose spikes in my blood rather than a gluten situation. Because if I'm also responding badly to like gluten-free products, then maybe it's not gluten that is the issue. But yeah, I'm rambling a bit about that, and you guys don't really need to know it, but I thought that maybe that would be interesting for some of you. I know that a lot of people struggle with like gluten intolerance or sensitivity, so maybe you guys could use something to help you track the same kind of issues. Going on to the mental well-being tracker, as mentioned, I mentioned that I did this similarly to the physical well-being for this month. I added in a table for learning. I think I mentioned this in the setup for February, but I've noticed that unless I learn something like on a regular basis, unless I give my brain food, unless I'm learning things, reading about different ideas, different concepts, listening to podcasts, I find that my brain doesn't do very well. And so I am making a point to try as best as possible to learn something new every single day, even if it's just something super basic that takes like 5 minutes to learn. And this can be something super basic, like for example, I thought about the things that I would like to try and do for 2024 at the beginning of the year. One of the things that I wanted to do was learn how to play chess. I wanted to learn how to play chess for years. The reason why I never learned it was because I never had anyone that would know how to play to kind of teach me, and so I could practice with that person and play with that person. And one day I was at work and some of my coworkers were playing chess on this app, and one of them mentioned to me that it was a really great app to learn how to play chess because it actually teaches you. It has classes for teaching you how each piece moves and like maneuvers that you can pull off, and it has like challenges. So my goal is, if like at worst, I will try at least to learn one of those lessons on there, because they're really short. They're like 2 to 5 minutes. And so I can pull that off, or maybe go on Pinterest and learn a little bit about, I don't know, some kind of bodily function, like what does cortisol do to your body, or learn a bit more about glucose, like I was doing with that podcast. Things like that. Things that might seem very small, but they're actually very beneficial for you. Chess is very strategic. It's a really great mental exercise, so it's very beneficial for you, because you have to contemplate so many things at once. Every piece moves differently. You have to contemplate how each piece moves and how every piece of your opponent can move and what they might do, so you can try and anticipate that. It's a very big mental exercise. And so trying to learn chess as a mental exercise, exactly. I'm trying to exercise my brain. The brain is a muscle. Muscles need to be exercised, and so I find that is very essential for my mental health. And maybe if that isn't something that you have contemplated for yourself, maybe give that a thought and maybe see if you need some mental exercise as well. But yeah, other than that, we have worship music. I was never like a very Christian person. Yep, I have been developing more into my faith lately, but I found the world of worship music, which as a Portuguese person, we're mostly Catholics, and that's not really that much of a thing. The kind of worship music that you listen to is at church, like, you know, the normal songs. So I didn't know that there was an entire world of worship music out there, but I found some that I absolutely love, and I noticed that my mood is incredibly better when I sing them, or when I just listen to them. I have like a little jam session with cool upbeat worship songs that are really dope, and I like that, and it makes my mood a lot better, and it's a really great way to start off my day or to just pick me up. So yeah, I have that on there just to track down when I do that or not, and just a little checkbox for reading my Bible, and then a bigger one for my mood and gratitude. I want to keep track of those. That is also a good way of making sure that my mental health is in place. So yeah. As you can see, I'm kind of going back and forth with the colors that I'm using different colors on the border, like with a different embroidery theme drawings that I'm making. I'm also switching back and forth with the colors. Basically, I'm taking the same color palette and the same concept, but I'm switching up just enough so that it gives something very similar, a bit of a different feel. That way you don't get bored as much with the style that you're making. It gives it a different vibe, and it just doesn't feel as like monotone. It gives your bullet journal a bit of a dimension. If you just play around with the theme that you have and with the colors, you can definitely make something that looks new with every spread. Going on to my resting goals page, I started this last month. Definitely recommend you guys checking the February setup. For that, I go over this a little bit more, but basically there are different types of rest. And do you ever feel like you are taking a lot of time off or sleeping a lot and you're technically resting, but you don't feel like you're resting? You might need different types of rest. There's like social rest, there is spiritual rest, there's a lot of stuff, and I talked about that a bit more in my last bullet journal setup. So definitely recommend you guys looking at that, because I also wrote down like some definitions in my actual spread, and you can pause and see that. For this month, instead of the bingo that I did for last month, I decided to just make boxes with activities that I actually want to do for the month, and slowly but surely try and achieve them, basically. Because last month, since it was kind of like a bingo theme, what I wanted to do was kind of just write down a lot of ideas of what those types of rest could look like, because I was kind of new to the concept. And so whenever I felt like I was in need of one of those types of rest, I could just look at the spread and have some ideas. But for this month, I want to be a little more intentional with that. I want to both achieve those types of rest and also do things that I actually want to do, not just have hypothetical resting ideas, you know? So I have them blank for now because I'm gonna sit down and think about some things that I actually want to do that will achieve these resting goals. And then my fitness goals page, I kind of have this integrated into my physical well-being tracker. I decided to move it because I want to have more space to write down like my workouts and other fitness goals that I have, because it's not just like a weight loss thing. I also want to really improve my flexibility. For example, I want to improve like just my overall endurance. When I started kind of doing cardio a bit more last month, after like 10 minutes of a simple cardio workout video on YouTube, I was exhausted and my heart was beating so fast I thought I would pass out. And after a little bit, I could go on for longer. I actually achieved within a very short amount of time to manage to do like 35-minute videos of cardio workouts, which is a big improvement from like 10 minutes to 35 in like 2 weeks. That was like a big achievement for me. I was very excited. I want to up my endurance, and I also want to lose some weight as best as I can. I want to do more cardio because overall cardio is good for your physical and your mental health. I want to be more flexible because flexibility is very important to avoid injuries. Like, it's very important for you to avoid like twisting your ankles or just like dislocating stuff. I feel like it's not dislocating stuff, but anyways, it's good for you. It's really good for you. And yeah, so those are some things that I want to keep track of, and I want to work towards them, and this way I have a place to write everything down. And I'm also thinking about maybe trying like more Pilates and maybe delve into yoga. I don't know that much about yoga. I know that there are like different types of yoga. There's one that's more like meditative, and there's one that's like more of a body connection type of thing. I think I could be horribly wrong on that. I would like to maybe try something that would make me feel more connected and in tune with my body overall. That's kind of a goal that I have for this year, to just be more in tune with my body and what my body needs. So that would maybe be nice. So I'm gonna see how I incorporate that into my life. Moving on to my weeklies, I joined week 9 and week 10 of the year, which is like from the first of the month to the 3rd, and then like the first like full-on March week. I usually try and do this whenever it's like a very short amount of time from when the month starts or ends. I try to like connect that with another like full week of the month. I do not like to waste a whole page or spread on just like 3 days, and I also don't like to put them together with the rest of the other month. So yeah, I'm doing that. I'm back to this kind of spread. I like having more space to write things down for the week, and even though I do spend more pages doing a 2-page weekly spread, you know what, I'm just making that a sacrifice, so to speak, because I do like this way more. Gives me a lot of space to write down anything that I need, be it like appointments, to-do lists, thoughts and feelings that I had on the day that I maybe want to write things down. And on the left there, I have a goals page and a tasks page, which I try my best to have those on my weeklies as well, just because it's really good for you. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the time frame that you give yourself to achieve something is the time that you will take to achieve that something. So if you give yourself the entire month to achieve a goal, you will likely procrastinate until the end, and then you're not really allocating yourself a good amount of time to actually do that. So whenever I define my goals for the month, I then split them into like weeks to have a good healthy amount of time to dedicate to each goal. So this keeps me accountable on that. and then the task can either be tasks that will contribute to that goal or random things that I also have to do. So that's kind of a vibe for this. For this page, I actually decided to not color in the border because I felt like I had already used up all of the colors and I was just repeating myself at this point. And I liked the cleaner vibe because for this one, I didn't just doodle around the borders. I actually doodled in between boxes. So I was like, you know what? For this one, we can dial it down with the colors. So that's what I did. For the further weekly spreads that I'm going to be making, just know that this week has 3 more days than it should. So in that right bottom 3 spaces for the days, I would just make that my goals and tasks list, just because that gives me more space. And then on the left where the goals and tasks are, that would be like highlights and challenges for the week, because I feel like that's a better allocation of space. So yeah, let's go in with the final flip through. I'm really happy with this month. I feel like I actually managed to pull off a theme that could be somewhat basic into something that actually I find very fun and delicate at the same time. And I don't know, I'm excited about this. I hope you guys like it as much as I did. I hope that maybe you guys have some thoughts on things that I should try in further videos. If you guys have any like suggestions of things that you'd like to see, please do let me know. I really like to hear from you guys, and it helps me be aware of what you guys need from videos. And it's actually really nice for me as a creative person to be given some prompts for future videos. So if you guys have any feedback, suggestions, thoughts, let me know. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Bye!